Welcome to Coast to Coast Podcast, brought to you by thelines.com. I'm Nate Weitzer, your host today with Josh Lander out on business, but we are trying out a little bit of a new format here as we wind down the end of the regular season and look towards the playoffs. We're going to be looking at a slate-wide episode here. We got 8 games on the slate on Wednesday. Obviously, lots of moving parts. Most teams on a back-to-back here. For most, it's their last of the season, and there's still a lot of jockeying for playoff position. We are going to be bringing you other episodes today, including a late Clippers-Lakers game breakdown once we know who might be playing for the Lakers in that big one. Also going to have the player props episode up for you. And going forward, it's going to be, kind of a slate-wide look and then the player props, which is a fan favorite and one of our favorite to bring you. Please like and subscribe to the page so you don't miss any of these episodes, and we will be going in full force in the play-in and playoffs beyond. So looking at this slate here, I mean, the first game that is interesting is definitely the Bucks and Bulls, but I'm actually going to skip over that for my most confident bet, which is Hawks team total, 122.5 points. They are hosting the Wizards. The Wizards officially eliminated from playoff contention on Monday. And what they trotted out in their next game here against the Bucks was a starting lineup of Anthony Gill, Jordan Goodwin, Johnny Davis, Corey Kispert, and Daniel Gafford, and then a couple of people we had never heard of off the bench, and Kendrick Nunn. And they played at a 108.6 pace against Milwaukee, which is just like death by fast break and a terrible idea. But it was kind of trending up that way. Over their last 4, a 103 pace, they were actually able to beat Boston in a fast-paced game. And then, like I said, eliminated as they played, still fast-paced against the Knicks and Magic, 2 of the slower teams out there. And that's why I'm kind of looking at, even in these last 7 road games, they've played maybe 5 of the slowest-paced teams in the East. The Knicks, Magic, Raptors, Cavs, and Sixers. And they have a 123 defensive rating in these last 7 roadies. So haven't been giving up a ton of points because they are the second slowest pace. Again, since the All-Star break, on the break, they are a very slow team. But that was when they had competitive lineups up there. They had Kristaps Porzingis. They actually beat the Hawks in Atlanta with Beal and Kuzma and no Porzingis in a game that totaled 235. So Hawks got 116 in that one. I think they can certainly score a lot more than that in this rematch. We'll see if the Wiz, I don't think they have any reason to play any of their veterans. They even sat Deni Avdija against the Bucks. So, not that he's going to be a defensive stopper. I guess the one thing for pause here is, will the Hawks be without Trae Young again? He sat out last night with an illness. They still scored 123 against the Bulls team that's been top 5 defensively for the last month, basically. They actually played better team ball without Trae. It's a lot less my turn, your turn with DeJounte Murray. And the Wizards, for what it's worth, are dead last in opponents' assist-to-turnover ratio. Also giving up the 4th highest field goal percentage on the road since the break. And that's where the Hawks do most of their damage, is in the floater game, in the paint. Not a great three-point shooting team, not a great team getting to the line. And that's what the Wiz limit. So look, you're going to be able to do whatever you want, basically, against the team that's completely tanking at this point. Just like rebuilding, like packing it in for the lottery here once they're eliminated. And the Hawks play fast and they score under Quinn Snyder. They were doing that before, but their last 6 home wins, 127.7 points per game. They're playing at the second fastest pace at home since Snyder took over. And they're going to win this game. I think everyone expects is minus 11 at home, even though it's on a back-to-back. Even without Trae Young, I think they can score this much. So switching back to that Bucks-Bulls game, and it's kind of a wait-and-see mode because Milwaukee's on back-to-back. This is their 8th game in 11 nights, and they have to win only one more game or get one more Boston loss to clinch the number 1 seed. But I think this is their spot to get the win. They're hosting Memphis in 2 nights and then at Toronto. And those are obviously a little bit tougher physical games, I think, than the Bulls. The Bulls team that they're very familiar with and might have a little bit of revenge lined up, if considering they lost 2 early season ones against these Bulls. So I think more for the Bucks is it's kind of a situation where they just lost in this spot at home, back-to-back, very short rest. They didn't just lose, they were pummeled by the Celtics. And needed to respond to that. Like I mentioned, the Wizards G League team is all they had to face yesterday, so it's not like that took a lot of heavy lifting. They also lost their previous back-to-back at Denver, but proved they can win on short rest. They had won their previous two. Obviously, they were on a tear since late January. But I mean, it's -7 right now for Milwaukee, and that's a little bit much. Honestly, I think there is an option here to take the Bulls to cover, along with DeRozan scoring 25 points is plus 245. But let me just get my pick straight up here, so there's no mince words. It's this: I like Bucks -3, -2.5 on the tees with the over at 226. I think this certainly could go over 230. Bulls have actually gone over in 6 of their last 7, and they've totaled 227 in those games, which isn't overly impressive. But now you're facing the Bucks. The Bucks at home, a team scores like 124 at home over the last couple months, and I think some smoke and mirrors in terms of how they've been able to limit the Bucks recently in those early meetings. I mean, Giannis put up 45, 22, and 7 in overtime, and the Bulls somehow won that game because the Bucks shot 9 for 44 from deep, but the Bucks dominated. I mean, they had 18 more field goal attempts. They had 22 offensive rebounds, so they're just bullying them down there. Bucks in general shooting just 30% from 3. In their last 3 meetings with Chicago, 2 of which on the road, they shoot much better from 3 at home. And yeah, the pace, the scoring, everything goes way up at home. I do think the Bulls, who are also on a back-to-back, by the way, are going to be able to match points to a degree. I mean, the way Zach LaVine's been hot lately and the success DeRozan's had. 30 points per game on a 129 offensive rating, on 41 and a half minutes per game in his last 3 against Milwaukee, just keeping them in it. So that's where I get the logic to say, look, if DeRozan's going to score 25 plus, if he's going to keep cooking in this matchup, I do think the Bulls can cover 7. And I think there is a good parlay there to say, like, they're going to need that because that also indicates, the scenario that we're going to get a bit of a slower game. We're not going to get a total up and down fest where the Bucks can really thrive and where Giannis can continue to dominate as he did, a lot last season and in the playoffs against this Bulls team that he just bullied. But the other scenario, which I think is a little bit more likely, is the Bucks just take care of business here. They win at home, cover us maybe 3, maybe by 7. I'm not sure, but I think they will push this game over by scoring 120 on their own, and the Bulls will match to a degree. They're still jockeying for playing position, so plenty to play for. And I do think they come out bouncing back from just scoring 105 against Atlanta, which is troubling, but I don't think it's an indication that they can't score with that big 3 out there. So that is all we have for you in this game look here across the slate. Plenty of player props to look at, and we'll have a video up for you on that, as well as the Lakers and Clippers breakdown. And until we see you next, happy betting.